to start off with is I want to sort of make a continuum. And on this continuum on this side, I'm going to have the notion of a sedentary lifestyle. Now, a sedentary lifestyle is a lifestyle where somebody spends too much time sitting or lying down. Classic examples would be someone doing an office job, driving home from door to door, then sitting on the sofa, going to bed day after day after day. That's what we mean by a sedentary lifestyle. Now, if I kind of then put a continuum over like this to what we might describe to be a lifestyle of physical activity, of course, we define physical activity for adults who are physically active in the UK as being 5 lots of, if I put it in here, as 5 times 30 mins per week. Or if it was children, 7 lots of 60 mins per week. That's what we mean by being physically active. Well, depending on where you are or I am on this continuum, whether it's here or here or here, or let's hope not, but here, that's going to have an impact on our health and well-being. So I want you to be considering kind of this blue and this pink as the 2 different settings, hopefully more active and less sedentary, hopefully not more sedentary and less active. But with that in mind, we're going to take the notion of health and well-being, and we're going to kind of split it into 3. Now, these are all overlap, and I'm not meaning to present them as discrete or distinct, but the first batch of characteristics would be physical well-being. So start to be thinking about what someone who's more physically active might experience with their physical well-being compared to someone who's sedentary. The next one we could be talking about is emotional, or you can say mental well-being. The health really of the mind. How does physical activity, or how does a sedentary lifestyle impact on that? And then finally, if I sort of go downwards here and we were to put in something like social well-being, this is a really interesting question for us to ask ourselves about how physical activity or a sedentary lifestyle impacts someone. So let's think about physical well-being first of all. What might we expect that would be different for different kinds of people? Well, we've got the likelihood of injury. Now, this is a nuanced one because you might be thinking, well, people who are more physically active, they might get more muscle pulls, more likely to have a sprained ankle. That is absolutely true. You might play tennis and twist your ankle. Absolutely. But sedentary lifestyles lead to a sort of decreasing strength of the tissues of the body, of the muscles, of the bones, and therefore injury becomes more likely. What about things like CHD or coronary heart disease? Do you think that's more likely with active or sedentary people? What about things like heart attack? What about things such as stroke? All of these are by far more likely if we are sedentary compared to if we are active. What about blood pressure? Do you think blood pressure is going to be healthier for an active or sedentary person? Of course, it's for an active person. People experience hypertension, nice little term for me to add in there. Hypertension, which is chronic high blood pressure, if they are inactive or sedentary for a long period of time. This doesn't happen overnight, by the way. What about things like bone density? As I mentioned before, bones become kind of less healthy. The calcium matrix of the bone becomes less strong, less dense over time. We can call this osteoporosis. What do you think? Do you think someone who does regular weight-bearing exercise is more or less likely to have osteoporosis, brittleness of the bones? And of course, they're less likely. What about things like type 2 diabetes? Type 2 diabetes is lifestyle diabetes, and one of the ways of preventing it is to exercise. So there we go. And then of course we have posture and we have fitness itself, whether it's strength or flexibility or power. So all of these factors are changed by being active or sedentary, and I'd simply like you to be able to write in both directions what the impact of activity or sedentary lifestyle is. Now let's go to our emotional well-being. Again, lots to consider here. Activity, and I really like this term, activity produces stress-busting hormones. Stress-busting hormones, what a term. And these are called endorphins, okay? Endorphins, I always spell this wrong. Endorphins, like this, endorphins. Now, these endorphins are produced, I don't think there is an E in there, get rid of that E. These endorphins, like serotonin, are produced in the mind after we've been physically active, and it gives us a bit of a natural high. They release stress. We can also get rid of energy, or of excess energy. Human beings, without meaning to get too anthropological, get rid of excess, didn't mean to put of, without meaning to be too anthropological, that we are meant to be mobile. We're sort of designed to move around. So of course that energy can be achieved that way. A person who is active might experience less stress. And if it's less stress, this is what we call a cathartic effect of exercise. Exercise is considered to be cathartic. It gets rid of stress. Exercise is also escapism. I mean, honestly, guys, the amount of sort of working stuff out in my head I do when I'm in a spin class or cycling, or I'm running, or in the gym, or I don't play sports so much these days, a bit of table tennis, don't play football anymore. But that sort of like that mind escape is so significant. It does me a lot of good. I'm sure it's the same for you. It allows you to clear your mind, exactly what I was saying. Sedentary lifestyle does exactly the opposite. We've also got people who are active who are more confident. On the whole, right, we're generalising. We can't say a physically active person is also always confident. It's not necessarily the case. People who are physically active tend to have better body image. That links closely to our confidence point, right? And finally, we get this notion of aesthetic appreciation. Because we are moving, we can actually sort of enjoy the beauty of movement itself, and we call that aesthetic appreciation. Now, to finish this off, and to finish it off strongly, is probably the hardest bit of this. What about social well-being? Well, physical activity, sport, health often leads to making friends. And what I mean by this is we're often in clubs, in teams, in groups, and that enables us to meet new people. Let me put that exact point in here. And these people are often of a diverse background. Yeah, they're often sometimes like us, especially in youth sport. But when you get into seniors, you meet all kinds of people, different people. We also get and develop the skills of cooperation, working with others. I would add into here things such as the notion of being able to accept other people what they are and contributing to a team or a group. We get a sense of belonging. You know, that's a really important thing. Think about the fact that in sports clubs we often wear the same kind of clothing or polo shirts or whatever happens to be. We develop communication skills, so important for productivity in life, in relationships. If people can talk and can listen, perhaps important for communication skills is particularly listening, then they're much more likely to be happy in their work and their relationships. And finally, we get the notion of leadership. And personally, I also want to add in here followship, because leadership is one side of this, but there's also the capacity to follow others, and we call that followship or response to leadership. So what we're saying here, folks, is that if we move more towards this end of this continuum, all of these will be in the positive on the whole, on average. And those are some damn good reasons why people should seriously consider being physically active for the duration of their lives. Thank you.